So when you are looking at sugar, yes, you are right. It has been demonized a lot. But let's go over a little bit and to see that is it really deserve this sort of bad reputations. So first, what is sugar to begin with? Sugar is a class of carbohydrate that tastes sweet. Sugar is the simplest form, known as glucose. It's used as fuel for energy by your body cells. I'm Kim Law, the founder of the 7 program, Wellness Warrior Move. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe my channels and hit that like button. We've got a lot of topics like cancers, obesity, and cholesterol series. And if you think this info could benefit to someone, why not share it to your friends and family? Let's spread the truth together. Now, there's all sorts of different types of sugar, such as glucose, lactose, fructose, and sucrose. So when we think of sugar, we think of things that taste sweet. But food does not necessarily taste sweet, can also contain sugar, you know. For example, all plant food and dairy contain sugars. So you know, if you like to eat like a bowl of broccoli or a bowl of spinach, or you drink a cup of milk, it's not necessarily sweet, but it does contain sugar. It still contains sugar, right? So when it comes to our digestive system, how our body gets sugar is another topic altogether. Our body will get its sugar in one way or another. Even if the food isn't sweet, it will still end up as sugar in your bodies. Even foods that don't have sugar, for example, it's not like candy or chocolate. Like I said before, the broccoli, the spinach, and the cup of milk. It doesn't taste sweet, but that's just how our body works. It will just end up as sugar anyway. For example, our digestive system will break down its foods into its little component parts. So imagine as you were eating a giant Lego build. Once you eat up the giant Lego build, what your digestive system does is it disassembles the builds into little bricks. And then it takes these bricks and it goes away. And it uses these bricks in its own project to make other things. It's the same thing with our food. So even if you eat something that is not sweet, if you eat something like potato or rice, it will still be broken down by our body. And all of these starches and these carbohydrates will be broken down into sugar by our body. So whole grains, vegetables, fruits, meals, it is all broken down into smaller parts. And these smaller parts include various nutrients, including sugar, which is really important for our body to use as fuel. Our body actually needs sugar. The undeniable truth is our body needs sugar in the form of glucose for energy. If our body doesn't get its sugar, we are going to starve to death. Sugar fuels the growth of all the cells in our body. And it needs for the cells to perform their necessary functions, you know. Without their source of fuel, cells would starve to death. Now, some cells might be able to use other forms of fuel that isn't sugar, but isn't not the ideal source of fuel. And then when it comes to certain cells, for example, certain cells in the brain, they don't have that luxury of using other fuel sources. And they require a continuous supply of nutrients like oxygen and sugar. So our body needs sugar. But why does everyone think that sugar is something evil? Have you thought about that? Now, there's been a lot of things going around, especially on the internet, saying that sugar causes cancer. And I want to put this myth to bed. Sugar does not cause cancer. Now, there is a link between sugar and cancer. And it has been blown out of proportions and very misunderstood. Now, there's a lot of ideas where people can sort of misunderstand this. One of them is by a very poorly done research in which they had cancer cells in the the fat got cells, sugar, and the cancer cells grew. So, of course, people are like, oh my God, sugar will cause cancer to grow. But then, if you take a normal cells in a petri dish and you give them sugar, they also grow. So sugar fuels the growth of normal cells as well as cancer cells. But there's no way to completely avoid sugar. There's another studies have gone and looked on those PET scans, and they say, oh, they use sugar as a signaling molecules. So the bright light on the scan are the cells that take up a lot of glucose, a lot of sugar. So they will look at those scans and go here, look, the cancer cells are growing super bright. So does this mean that sugar will fuel the cancer? Well, I mean, sugar fuels all the cells in your bodies and cancers in your bodies. So, of course, it is going to do everything it wants to. You know, suck up all your nutrients, including sugars. But there is no way to completely avoid sugars in our diet. Everything we eat, every single of bread, every bowl of rice will be broken down by our digestive system into simple sugars for our cells to use as energy. So it is not really some demons to avoid. Without this fuel, every cells, including the cancer cells and the healthy cells, they are going to starve and die. If you do somehow manage to completely cut off sugar from your diet, it is a race to the finish line. Which one is going to starve first? Your cancer cells or you? So don't worry too much about this sugar and cancer, okay? There's a lot of other organizations out there that say the same thing. So you don't have to take my words for it. Mayo Clinic is a not-for-profit organization founded in 1864. It has over 4,500 physicians and scientists. The Mayo Clinic&x School of Medicine is ranked among the top 10 in United States. And they state that giving more sugar to cancer cells doesn't make them grow faster. So the Cancer Research UK has stated that there is no way of telling our bodies to let the healthy cells have glucose they need, but not giving it to the cancer cells. There is no evidence that following a sugar-free diet lowers the risk of getting cancer or boosts the chance of surviving if you are diagnosed. The American Cancer Society has stated that this fact is often misinterpreted by people who assume incorrectly that sugar in foods and drinks directly feeds cancer cells. The American Institute for Cancer Research has stated that every cell in our bodies, including cancer cells, use sugar or glucose from our bloodstream for fuel. We get that blood sugar from foods we are eating containing carbohydrates, including healthy vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and low-fat dairy sources. Some glucose is even produced within our bodies from protein. But there's no clear evidence that sugar in your diet preferably feeds tumors over other cells. So when you are looking at all these things, there's a nugget of truth. So when scientists say that consuming excessive sugar is bad for health, it doesn't mean that sugar is inherently unhealthy or is bad for the human body, or it's something that you need to avoid it, like totally avoid it at no cost, and everything, okay? It simply means that consuming this high sugar, empty calories foods is not beneficial to health. Now, what are empty calories? Empty calories are calories that provide only energies and no nutritional value. For example, soda is an example of empty calories. When you drink soda, is your body getting any nutrients? Is it getting any healthy out of soda? No, it isn't. All your body is getting is a lot of excess sugar and no nutrients. So empty calories is referring to the calories that you are getting, but you are not getting any nutrients along with those calories. So those calories are bad because the existing calories can lead to weight gains. And obesity is linked to higher risk of certain cancers, including breast, prostate, colorectal, and pancreatic cancers. Not to mention a whole host of other diseases. So when it comes to sugar, it's not that sugar is evil or you have to avoid it. Because I have seen people in an effort to avoid sugar, they stop eating things like fruits because fruits are sweet. But the thing is that you have to just be more picky about the food you eat. Fruits are fine for you to eat, even though they contain sugar. What people are saying when you want to avoid sugar is to avoid empty calories. So you just have to be more picky about what you are spending on your calories on. You want to make sure that when you are taking in calories, you are also taking in a lot of healthy nutrients with it. So that's another idea that fructose will cause gout. A lot of people have gone on, and especially on the internet, there's always on the internet. There's a lot of data on the internet. A lot of people out there were saying, oh, fructose will cause gout. This is also a misconception. So the misconception is that when fructose is broken down, purines are released, which will contribute to the uric acid level. Now people know that high uric acid level will increase the risk of gout, because gout is when your uric acid levels are really, really high. When your uric acid levels are super high, what happens is that your uric acid will crystallize in your joints. And that is what causes those painful symptoms of gout. But when you are looking at all of these risks, it's not that fructose will cause gout. So you don't have to avoid, once again, you don't have to avoid this healthy food that contains fructose. For example, you don't have to avoid foods like vegetables or fruits that contain fructose. What they are really concerned about is fruit that will contain this thing called high fructose corn syrups. Now, this is a sort of cheap additive that add into a lot of those unhealthy foods like soda. So once again, it's more about picking and choosing what food you eat. Now, if you are super concerned about fructose causing gout, and you are eating healthy foods like vegetables and fruits, the amount of fructose in vegetables and fruits, you are going to have to eat a ridiculous amount before you're starting having any issues at all. But when you are eating a lot of foods like these sodas or candies or other foods that have these high fructose corn syrups added into it, then it's really easy to consume an excess amount of fructose. So when it comes to these foods again, it's not that you have to avoid unhealthy foods or you have to avoid healthy food. It is more you have to avoid those unhealthy food out there. Once again, so if you are looking at 1 can of cod, I say 1 can of cod that contain about 39 grams of sugar. That is just 1 can, okay? If you are eating something like banana, a banana contains about 7 grams of fructose. So you will have to eat about 6 bananas, about 5.5 bananas to get the same amount of sugars from a can of cod. And let's to be real here. I'm here trying to convince people to eat more fruits, to eat more vegetables, and I'm trying really, really hard to convince people to do this. So if you are eating more bananas, or if you are eating just more fruits or vegetables to begin with, I'm going to be really, really happy, because let's be real here. Most people aren't eating enough fruits and vegetables. But we have no problem grazing down this can of soft drinks. So when it comes to this, it's all about these other factors that also tie into it. So instead of just focusing on one thing like fructose causing gout, it's more like a combination of things of all together. You can't just simplify it and demonize just one thing. So it's a lot of things out there. When they are saying fructose, what they are really means not the fructose in the fruits or in the vegetables that you eat, but it's more likely to be the fructose that has the high fructose corn syrups. And this sort of additive They add a lot of calories to those foods. And when you eat a lot of these unhealthy foods, it is super easy for you to gain a lot of weight. Just think of how many cans of sodas you can easily finish in a day. That's a lot, right? If you have 3 cans of soda a day, just probably 1 can of soda every meal. That is nearly 500 calories, all right? So that is a lot of empty calories. And if you drink more than that, then it is going to be super easy for someone to gain weight or become obese. And obesity is strongly linked to gout. In the past, gout is known as the noble's man disease because in those times, only noblemen or kings could afford that much of food to become fat. So only those type of people will get gout. But now we know, now in our modern times, it is easier for everyone to get fat. And now our main problem is trying to control our weight and trying to stop ourselves from gaining this unnecessary weight. A study published by JAMA found that 91% of gout cases occurs in men with a BMI of 23 or greater. So the greater the BMI, the greater the risk. And in fact, if you are trying to prevent gout, a gout healthy diet is one that contains a lot of healthy vegetables and fruits. So these sort of headlines that you see on the internet, in the media, of things like fructose linked to gout, it is very misunderstanding because people will think, oh, what contains fructose? They have these ideas in their head that fructose is from fruit sugars. So they get worried and then they go, oh, I'm not going to eat these vegetables. Oh, I'm not going to eat these fruits anymore because, of those fructose. But that's sort of, it's just opposite what we really want. If someone is trying to avoid gout, if they have a high risk of developing gout, then it is more important that they eat more of these fruits and vegetables. Another idea is that fructose is linked to fatty liver disease. Now, there's a lot of bad ideas out there that surrounding like those fructose, as you can see. Okay? So fructose is not necessarily linked to fatty liver disease. It's once again, it's other factors all linked together that will cause the disease. So being overweight is the main cause of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease is split into 2 broad categories. One is alcoholic fatty liver disease and the other one is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We are not talking about alcoholic fatty disease here because it's very obvious by its names. It's caused by drinking too much of alcohol. But non-alcoholic fatty disease, on the other hand, is caused a lot by being overweight. Once again, if you just think about it, when you are overweight, you have too much of fat in your body. And your other body organs will also get fat around it, including your liver. So when you gain a lot of weight, what your liver does is that it also gain a lot of fat as well. So all this add together is causing the fatty liver disease. It's once again people who will equate this high fructose corn syrup to fructose when it's not the same thing. So when you eat a lot of these unhealthy foods, you are getting more weight. If you get more weight, you are putting yourself at risk of fatty liver disease. But when you look at fructose, especially fructose, research has shown that fructose does not itself cause fatty liver disease. Okay? If you consume too much fructose, it is all about in the moderations. Now, once again, if you consume those foods that have high fructose corn syrups, because it got a lot of additives in it, a lot of calories in it, you are going to gain weight. But if you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, the amount of fructose in there, well, it's going to be really hard for you to become obese having a healthy diet of fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables, once again, It's another recommendations for people who are already have the fatty liver disease or who are trying to avoid fatty liver disease. It's again one of those things that we want people to eat a lot of. So this sort of headline are not doing anyone any favor here. Alright, subscribe to my YouTube channels and never miss out on our latest videos. Stay tuned for exciting contents, tips, and more. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn it on the notification. See you soon.